Welcome to another Skillshare from this lovely group. Today we have Dean Steed and Jess St. Louis talking about what's memes got to do with it. So can everyone in the Skillshare say hello to the audience today? Just give a wave.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi. What's up, YouTube?
All right, so I'll let Dean and Jess take it away.
Hey everyone. So my name is Dean. I am an organizer and social media strategist for the Solutions Not Punishment Coalition. And today we are going to be doing a Skillshare called What's Memes Got to Do with It? The Power of Memes to Mobilize and Engage Your Members.
And hey, I'm Jess St. Louis. I'm the communications contractor. I work with the Racial Justice Action Center, which is one of the anchors of the coalition, and SNAPCO as well.
Yes, so for some of you, you might be really familiar with us, and for those of you who are not, Solutions Not Punishment Coalition, also known as SNAPCO, is a Black trans-led organization that works to build power amongst the communities most directly impacted by mass criminalization and incarceration, especially trans and gender nonconforming folks, current and former street-level sex workers, and formerly incarcerated people. We are an abolitionist organization that is working to fight mass criminalization and incarceration. Next slide.
So in SNAPCO, we adhere to the politics and strategy around transformative organizing. So that's our theory of change. It's how we organize, it's how we build power. So the definition that we use for transformative organizing is the art/science of bringing people together to use their collective people power to win concrete improvements in people's lives, strengthen their communities, transform the institutions that affect their lives, and alter the relations of power. And so again, it's about challenging, using, and building power for the positive transformation of our people and society. So part of the reason why we bring this up to talk when we're talking about memes is like we're talking about memes because we are really serious about how do we actually use memes to build power and build our base, and so we can actually transform the relations of power. So yeah, that's what we do. Next slide. So our case study, we're talking about memes, like how we, at SNAPCO we use them really effectively and strongly in a concerted action, was an action that happened in 2014, in October of 2014. So just a little bit about Juan Evans. Juan Evans was one of our organizers at the Solutions Not Punishment Coalition and Racial Justice Action Center. He very sadly passed away last summer and was a really strong, courageous, visionary Black trans leader within the coalition and a dear friend. And so in October of 2014, Juan was driving to East Point, Georgia, where our office is, and was pulled over for a traffic stop, and he didn't have his ID on him. The cop then accused him of lying about his identity and then arrested him. Also, they threatened him with a public genital search, and instead of calling him by his preferred gender pronoun, they called him it and thing, both at the stop and inside the jail. And then, so after we got him out, a week later, Juan led us in an action where he demanded an apology, new discipline practices, new procedures, and training around interaction with transgender non-conforming folks. And so we're also just speaking a little bit about the action. What we did in that action is we had a couple different points of like kind of entry for members to engage with the action, right? So we had a direct action in that we had people directly walking down from the Blue House, which is down the street from the law enforcement center, to the law enforcement center, we had two different groups. We had a group of folks who was primarily trans folks, primarily black trans folks, that went inside the building to support Juan and kind of really like visually flank Juan as he made the demand to speak with the police chief and to demand an apology. So we were while we were in the inside, there was a whole crew of amazing folks of our members in our base chanting and kind of really raising the energy outside. And additionally, we had two other levels in which people could engage. We also had online, in which we used memes and Twitter to engage, as well as a call-in moment where we escalated, also adding phones. So it was this really dynamic action that we really kind of was able to flex multiple arenas of power, whether people could be there in person or not. So that was just kind of this moment where we kind of really strongly used both graphics, Twitter, online organizing, and face-to-face direct action to actually alter relationships with power and force the police chief to talk to us and force the mayor to talk to us. So that was this really powerful action that we did. And so also just to speak a little bit about like what a meme is. The way that we talk about meme, we're talking about memes in this workshop is like kind of generally a square graphic that has image and a really strong core message on it that can be shared and really help disseminate throughout a base and throughout the internet. And so I show the next slide and show you the memes that we actually used in the action itself. So the first two memes on the left are the memes that we sent out kind of before the action. So you can see on these two memes, the text is the same and it's kind of the core message. So the words are directly come from Juan and like his experience and the way of like pushing back against the city of East Point. So we had kind of the first image in the background was our target with the city of East Point. The second one was also showing the power of our folks, and that photo was taken at a protest we did in February the year before, the same year. And so you also we see the message, we see the hashtags, and we see the imagery, right, with either target or kind of also showing the power of our folks. And then also the one on the very right was the last meme that we sent out kind of in the course of that action, where we really won concrete things. We wanted to lift that up. So we won apologies from the mayor and the police chief. We got a commitment to implement new standard operating procedures that respect the dignity and rights of transgender nonconforming folks, and then ongoing cultural competency training around transgender nonconforming folks and LGBT people for East Point police and city officials. And also just like to talk more about what that was, it was this campaign around the People's SOPs that we drafted collectively with trans leaders and in Atlanta on our base. And so East Point actually has a more progressive standard operating procedures as regards to transgender nonconforming folks than at the city of Atlanta. We really won this concrete victory through this set of actions. And so this is kind of like, this is what we use and have to kind of both uplift our victory and really mobilize people to the action and participate in sharing messages that really directly targeted our targets. So, yeah. Next slide.
So these are just some more memes that were created by Jess. You see the one on the left, which is a East Point action that happened earlier this year, in which Miss Dee Dee Chambly, a longtime freedom fighter for Black trans women, was at East Point Court facing a traffic charge, and the solicitor at Solicitor Weems, Assist Black Men, had misgendered her during court, actually had her removed from court and taken into a private room, with her and other Black cis men that she did not know, and proceeded to ask her dehumanizing, violating questions about her gender, her sexual transition, her transition status, and then threatened her with the law, saying that it was the law that he had to call her by the gender that was on her birth certificate, which we know is a lie. So this led to an action in which apology was demanded, a change in policy for how trans folks and gender nonconforming people are treated within the court system, and trans-led training for all court officials and workers. And so you see the meme on the left gives you our core message, right? East Point just won't quit disrespecting trans residents. And so you see that this is a continuing of a story from the memes that you just saw in the previous slide, in which we had already confronted East Point around policing and changing the standard operating procedures for police when interacting with trans and gender nonconforming people. And you see the fight had to continue because we're back again having to confront East Point court systems and the way that the East Point court system is treating trans and gender nonconforming people. But the meme on the left shows our demands while also bringing to you our core message with an image of us actually marching with Miss Dee leading the march to the East Point courthouse. And then on the right, you see another meme that we use differently, right? It's not necessarily attached to a campaign, but a meme that shows pictures, collages of pictures of us in action, and really just giving this snapshot of our work and why people should support SNAPCO. Next slide. So here, again, so like memes can be used differently. We can get really creative with how we use memes. What you see on the left is actually a breakup of an infographic that was created to show the horrifying data that was collected from a survey that we launched last year, where we surveyed over 88 trans and gender nonconforming people in Atlanta with their experience with the Atlanta Police Department. That report is called "The Most Dangerous Thing Out Here Is the Police." And the report shows how much violence actually occurs against trans and gender nonconforming, including sexual assault, the Atlanta Police Department arresting trans victims, the profiling of trans women as sex workers, and more. And so you can see that we broke up the infographic into a meme style format to make it more digestible, and also so we could release these statistics by the hour. But on the right, you really see how we use meme for action, because this was actually a meme that we created during the event where we were releasing the report and had invited Atlanta Police Department to come listen to the testimonies of Black, trans, and GNC folks who have been the victims and survivors of Atlanta police violence. It was an incredible event in which we listened to the testimonies, the community was there, elected officials were present, but APD refused to show up and be accountable for the violence that is happening within its department. And so we launched this meme during that event to mobilize our members and folks who were at home and our broader base into action. And so by putting out this meme, asking people to join us in a Twitter action allowed for us to take this moment outside of the event and engage a larger audience, a larger online audience, and provide another way for people to be actively involved. Next slide. Next slide, thank you. So here you see two different memes. And again, this is another example of how you can just have fun with memes and get really creative and do different things as a social justice organization. For many of you, you might recognize the meme on the left. Can somebody tell me what moment is being reflected in the meme on the left?
The Super Bowl performance.
Thank you. Yes. So this was like a very critical moment, and like this was actually a very political moment, and it was very controversial. You see that Beyonce is doing the Super Bowl performance, and she's pulling on the legacy of the 1968 Black Panther Party, right? And this moment really aligned with Snapco in the sense that Beyonce met a lot of police resistance. There was a call to boycott Beyonce by police. Police refused to do security at her events. She was considered anti-police, and this led to a lot of conversation, right? And then also pulling on the Black Panther Party, which was also a racial justice organization, very pro-Black, and then to see the ways that she met such heavy pushback around this particular moment. And so SNAPCO, one, as a racial justice organization, an abolitionist organization, was able to take this moment and insert ourselves into the conversation and our politics into that conversation. So that's one reason we chose to take advantage of this moment in social media where Beyonce, the Super Bowl, and Formation were trending. Also, you see the quote, "We slay," right? But we know that "we slay" actually comes out of Black, queer, trans, and GNC communities, right? And so this is a language that our members in particular know as a Black trans-led organization. Even the song Formation had Big Frida, a Black gender nonconforming artist in New Orleans who does bounce music, right? And so this was a way of like really engaging our members because this is our language, our community, and also being able to tie our politics into it. And so we were able, using hashtags, Formation, and other trending hashtags at the time surrounding Beyonce and this event, we were able to insert ourselves into the conversation with a broader audience while also being able to engage our members using pop culture. The meme on the right, you see, is Kendrick Lamar. This was at the Grammys where he's doing this performance that is tied to mass incarceration, right? And you also see the quote, "We gonna be all right," which was the chorus of that song, which had been taken up by Black Lives Matter activists across the nation as almost a mantra, something that you could hear being chanted at rallies, right? And it's really about this resilience. Like, we know we face oppression, but we're gonna be all right regardless. So really taking that political moment and that being a very trending topic on social media at the time, taking advantage of that to insert ourselves in our politics in that conversation as an organization that's fighting mass criminalization. Right? So those are two examples of how you can take social media moments where a lot of people are online talking about an issue or a topic and find creative ways to insert your politics and also engage your members who are also talking about these popular culture moments and events. Next slide. So now we're gonna move more into like the logistics part of the conversation. Like, why online? Why, as organizers, should we be using social media? Like, what is the benefit of us doing social media memes and having an online presence? Next slide. People power, right? So many people are online, and we can actually engage a lot more people than we would be able to do on the ground, right? And it's a both and, it's not an either or. We need to be both on the ground and online, but we realize that we can engage a lot more people by being on social media. Next slide. So as you can see here, Facebook, as of 2016, at the end of April, had 1.6 billion monthly active users, right? This is the number of active users, not users who somewhat come on there and don't do anything, right? So you have, that's a large amount of people who are actively engaged on Facebook monthly. The daily amount of active users is 936 million, which is still a lot of people who are actively using Facebook on the daily basis. Another popular platform for memes is Twitter, and Twitter has 310 monthly active users. So as you can see, there's a lot of people online using these social media platforms who we can be engaging. Next slide. So now that you're on social media, right, because you see like the importance of being able to engage a wider range of people, what kind of posts should we be making? Why are memes impactful, right? Why not just write a text post or use a link to your organization's website? Why do memes have such a huge impact on social media? Well, part of that is because studies show that people on Facebook really like photos. People really like images. And so as you can see in the charts on the slide, photo posts account for 93% of the most engaging posts on Facebook, which is a lot, right? So most of the most engaging posts on Facebook are the ones with photos. So when people are scrolling through their timeline and they see a couple of posts that just has a status with some text, or maybe even a status with a link, but then they come across a post that actually has a photo, more people are going to engage with that post that has the photo. We also see that photos get 53% more likes and 104% more comments. And so what memes does is takes advantage of that, right? Because you do take a photo, and as you saw in our examples, it could be a photo from your organization, right? Because people are also going to be more engaged when seeing photos of you and the work that you're doing. But you take a photo and you add your core message to it. A meme ties those two strong components together where you're able to get out your core message and attach it to an image and photo in a way that is most engaging for your members and base online and in social media. And so now Jess is going to lead you into a worksheet that talks about how. Now that you know why memes are important, Jess is going to walk you through a worksheet that talks to you about how you go about making memes for your organization.
So where's the worksheet? So sorry about this, y'all. I'm trying to get a copy of the worksheet up.
Yeah, I can help you out with that, Jess.
Cool, sweet, thank you. So again, when we're breaking down like how to make a meme, just for people who are on the Hangout, like what are some of the things that you saw in our memes that like made it effective, or like what were the components to the meme?
Can you repeat the question?
Like what were the components that you saw in the memes that we've shown you from Snapco?
Using popular culture, so images that people will recognize quickly, that are salient at that particular moment. So it'd be something people would be excited to retweet, to post, and to click on.
Cool. So yeah, pop culture. What else?
I think the ones with like even statistics or numbers, they were like very poppy and had like really good graphs that like I could quickly try to understand.
Yeah. I would say too that there's just like really attractive graphics, so like really great use of color and things that would like catch people's eye. So it seems like it was a lot of good graphics.
Yeah, definitely. So like strong kind of pop out text and like really grabbing attention with our image, using pop culture. Like these are the kind of different components that we kind of put together to make a meme happen. So in this worksheet, we kind of broke down like our process on like how to really distill what we're trying to do in an action. And again, like this is for the purpose of organizing. This is for the purpose of building power and engaging in strong transformative organizing practice. That this is kind of how we break it down. So the first piece, and it's almost like a storyboarding in a way. Like you kind of put this all in, and you're able to kind of have a storyboard of a meme that you kind of just put together. So the first piece is like, what's your overall message, right? For an action, for a campaign, for a specific media moment, like what's the major message that you want to share with people, or that you want people to understand and grab? And then kind of breaking that down, distilling it even further, is like, what is the core part of the message, right? The phrase that says it all, like a handful of sentences, or really one or two strong sentences that really push what you're doing. So that could be demands, that could be, so we saw in the East Point memes, like this is kind of like the first ones were like, we are not its or things, we are trans people, we deserve dignity and respect. Like that's part of the kind of the cultural narrative that we're trying to intervene on, as well as kind of like you saw the one with Miss Didi in it from this past year, both have the core message and our demand. So it's really like, what are the core things you want people to take away from when they see the meme? And then kind of from there, you can also think about even distilling it possibly even further from that core message of like, what's the hashtag, what's the digestible phrase that can be the tag of the message. So some questions to be thinking about are like, what are messages, chants, and hashtags that your community is already using, right? So we saw that with the We Slay, and we also saw that with We're Gonna Be All Right, right? So these kind of, what are folks already saying, or what connect with people? And are there any songs, lyrics saying that already have traction and then also connect with your work and principles? And kind of the last piece is around imagery, like what's the image that coordinates with the core message or highlights a target, right? So what's also other questions to ask, or what is the image that your community will recognize? And what is the image that is already in your community that you can kind of add to? And I also put the definition of transformative organizing in there, so we can also just kind of have some level of just like remembering, like we're doing this not just to increase engagement, but also we're doing the increased engagement so we can really build power. So that's kind of the worksheet. Are there any questions on the worksheet?
I don't have a question about the worksheet, but I'm wondering, it sounds like you all are great examples of means to look at that really build with this like transformative media organizing philosophy, which I really love. But what other like places can we look at to find memes that do this as well? Because I think some of it's being able to really like see what's possible. Do you all know other groups that are successful at this?
Yes, I want to suggest green memes. So like green as in the color GREEN, green memes. They're on Facebook. That's their name on Facebook. But basically their mission is to use memes to inspire people to be involved in environmental justice. And so their site has a lot of great examples of how people use memes to in a social justice context. But my laptop is actually dying, so I'm gonna run and go get a charger really quick.
Yeah. Have anyone else on this hangout also seen other organizations or groups like using the memes that like are engaging and exciting and help really move the work? Or did your organization use them?
We try to use them. Our memes aren't always nearly as engaging or poppy, so this is really exciting to be able to learn in kind of detail some best practices about how to communicate using them.
I would say there's an organizer, the immigrant rights movement, Eric Huerta. His Twitter account is El Random Hero, and he does a lot of memes for social movements. And if you follow him, he's often posting them. El Random Hero on Twitter, and he also does workshops about developing memes in the context of doing community organizing campaigns.
Cool. So for the also, would anybody in this group be interested in potentially like filling out this worksheet and letting us know what you come up with?
Mhm.
That would be
Yes.
awesome, Jovan.
Should we take some time to fill out the worksheet?
Yeah, if folks could take maybe maybe like 7 minutes or so.
All right. Should
Cool.
we?
And for folks who are watching the live stream and aren't in the Hangout, so there's a link which is we'll post on Twitter and Facebook, I guess, right now, and it's bit.ly/snapco-meme-worksheet-gdoc-editable. But we'll post that out.
Okay. Should we listen to Tina Turner while we work on this?
Yeah.
And when the song's over.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Wes, I actually really appreciated your comment about the fact that we've been using memes before we knew what they were. And so it's just to say, like, memes didn't just, like, they're not anything new, but the more that we talk about them, like, the more that we can be more strategic and powerful in how we use them.
Yeah.
So if you're watching the live stream, you can also always find all of the materials from the Skillshares on transformativemedia.cc, the main site for the Transformative Media Organizing Project. So right now, if you're watching live, you could go to, well, if you're watching live, you're already on the site, and you'll find over on the right-hand side of the page, just below the window where you're watching the video, a box called Materials, and there should be a couple links there, one link to the slide deck that we're using today, and another link that says Meme Worksheet, and that's where you can find that worksheet that we're all filling out right now. And that's always the case with all these Skillshares. You can find all the materials that we use in that box called Materials.
Thank you.
And I'm acting confused when you're close to me. If I tend to look dazed, I read it someplace. I've got cause to be. There's a name for it. There's a phrase that fits. But whatever the reason, you do it for me. Oh, what's love got to do? It's got to do with it. What's love but a second-hand emotion? What's love got to do? It's got to do with it. Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? I've been taking on a new direction, but I have to say, I've been thinking about my own protection. It scares me to feel this way. Oh, what's love got to do? It's got to do with it.
We should do that at every Skillshare.
Yeah, we should. We need Dean though. I have a question. I had a question while I was filling out this worksheet. That I ran into this kind of interesting thing. So a lot of the work I do is around internet access and making sure people aren't getting discriminated or screwed over when it comes to being able to access the internet. And as I was trying to figure out this core message, I realized that there's so many organizations that have kind of named themselves around a similar aspect. So if the core message is to free the internet, I realized that there's movies and organizations that also have that sort of as their title. So I was wondering how to any suggestions in navigating that, or ways to kind of think through this message in context of this movement in general happening. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. And I'll add one suggestion, and definitely I would love to hear other people's feedbacks. SNAPCO is a Black trans-led organization, and one of the national hashtags that people use is Black Trans Lives Matter. And so a lot of times, trying to put something on a national hashtag makes it harder for people to actually find your organization. And so part of the solution to that was to start Black Trans ATO as a hashtag so that it became local. So adding something local about your hashtag can be helpful if you're a local organization.
Okay.
Makes a lot of sense. There's a couple things in the chat here. People are responding to the workshop. So Wes from Breakout says, we used memes before we knew what they were, I think. We did this Know Your Rights photo campaign, and in retrospect, had we thought more about them as memes, they could have been more powerful. And Marielle from Mexico says, this is sort of related to memes. We use lots of IM apps in Mexico, WhatsApp and Telegram, and this organization made Telegram stickers for one of their projects on drug use. And then she puts in a link that we can share out on Twitter and Facebook. To an organization in Mexico making sticker memes for Telegram.
Thank you.
Also, Diana, kind of responding to your question, I agree with Dean's pieces around when you insert yourself into a national conversation hashtag, it's easy to kind of get drowned out. But I think it's also on the flip side, this kind of thing is kind of this almost double-edged sword in this way, and that you have this chance of not getting necessarily individually recognized and kind of getting drowned out with all the other tweets that are happening in that hashtag. And at the same time, it also allows you to insert yourself in a national conversation, right? So if we kind of hashtag Black Trans Lives Matter, or even the hashtag formation, right? We can think about these national moments where we can also insert ourselves inside of those hashtags as well, and maybe even draw more attention and engagement with our messages as well, right? Because people kind of also not just follow individual timelines, but also hashtags.
Okay. So it's kind of use the use the momentum of what's happening nationally, but make it, your local, related to your local, and that who cares if other people are also using the same core message because it's just enhancing the conversation. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's good, like that's when you using maybe 2 hashtags versus just one. Um, allows you to do both of those things in conjunction. So it's not an either or, right? You're still building your own hashtag while also inserting yourself within a national conversation.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Does anyone come up with an idea for a meme they want to make right now with like an image?
So I had an image in mind, but I don't know if it exists right now. I was thinking of an image of like the Edmund Pettus Bridge, but like going from like the 60s into now and kind of showing like how that like meat has changed, but it's part of like one history. I don't think it exists now, but I definitely I'm like now thinking about working on that. And maybe we could use one of just like the old Edmund Pettus Bridge.
What would be your phrase on that image?
That happened quick.
Yeah.
I think my phrase would be like, "As the South goes, ... and then something about the South marches together, because I think we have this like collective spirit in a way that I haven't experienced otherwise. Or maybe where the South goes, we all go together.
Ooh,
Love
let's
it.
do it. Let's do it. Who's making the meme? There's a meme generator here that we could try.
I'm watching you generate this meme, and my mind is blown right now. So.
Oh, okay. I see. I think for some reason I can't see it. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, that's pretty
It's
awesome.
very powerful. It's very powerful.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah,
And
I
then
got
there
chills.
could be one there could be an Atlanta version where Atlanta social movement does one together.
Yeah.
Like where Atlanta goes, we all go together. It could be like a whole campaign where like different cities and places do that.
Yes.
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 What's a good view of Atlanta? What's a good thing to look for in images?
I don't know. It depends on it. Atlanta's so many different things. I don't know what would be.
Yeah.
Could you also use this link of this image to do that, make that same meme we just did? Because this one, someone already photoshopped an older picture with a newer picture of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I just put the link in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Mind blown.
I know,
This happened
right?
so quickly.
It sounded like that's what your original.
Yeah, that is.
Check that out.
Yeah, that's it. That's awesome. I'm gonna go sit down in a corner.
Wow, this image is great.
Yeah, that's a winner.
Wow.
I know. I'm like, this is. I want to get Detroit in there now too. This is awesome.
I also think maybe for Atlanta we could also do like the kind of the view of Atlanta from the Jackson Street Bridge is one idea, like an iconic skyline that.
Got it. Yeah.
Also thing I'm wondering is if we could also just from like either SNAPCO or Project South, like our members in action, like
Yeah.
where Atlanta goes, we all go together.
Yeah, like I'm seeing that one as like a back pocket thing when we do, like the next time we do something all together to really like highlight that piece of it.
Yeah.
Hey, so if people are following along with us and making their own memes, what hashtag should they use so that we can check them out?
Mm.
Jess and Dean, what's the hashtag people should be using for the workshop?
I don't think we created a meme for the hashtag for the workshop, but we could do some brainstorming on that.
We could do like, it's a long hashtag, but we could do hashtag what's memes got to do with it. We also could do a hashtag of like hashtag we all go together. That could be another one. I don't know. Any other ideas?
Memes for justice.
Memes for justice.
Memes for justice. I like that.
I was really curious about like while we're working on these, there was sort of a question I had about it was a little bit related to what we were talking about before, where what do you do when there's a national hashtag, and one good strategy is to localize it. But I'm also wondering if you all could reflect a little bit about I guess some of the downsides or negative things that can happen during a meme campaign, like what happens when people try and take over your hashtag, or when they respond with negative hashtags, or like one big example would be people responding to Black Lives Matter with hashtag All Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your experience with that, with people attacking you via the hashtag campaigns that you're doing. If that's something you've had to deal with.
I actually like, as far as like Snapco and using memes to move forward our campaigns. I don't think that either of our memes have gone viral enough to get that kind of feedback, because I think like what happened with Black Lives Matter as a hashtag, right? Like we know that Black Lives Matter as a hashtag started in 2012 around the Trayvon Martin murder, but it didn't actually get the national attention until 2014 with Mike Brown. And so I think like as social justice organizations, as we do memes, that part of that is knowing that you may put out a really great meme, a really great image with a really great core message and hashtag that may not spread much farther than your own base immediately. And so like the reality is it takes time and a lot of times the right conditions for a meme to spread in a way that it gets a large amount of national attention, and usually with that broader range of people seeing it, people who are not aligned with your politics, people outside of your base, then in those moments, I think a lot of that pushback, co-optation happens. But we have not experienced that yet. Unfortunately, right? Because it means unfortunately we haven't been viral enough for people to be getting a lot of feedback from people who aren't aligned with our politics. And then, unfortunately, it's just the reality that memes take a lot of time to become these cultural phenomenons.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I completely agree with what Dean said about our experience.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if it's just this. It's a good question though, Sasha, because it's like the internet is this place, is this strange place, strange and beautiful landscape that also like people can twist what you're doing, and like if we're jumping on people's campaigns to add like political content too, then I think like other people could do the same. So like when that happens, like do you shut it down? Do you then is that the time in which you generate another meme to sort of replace that? And then like I think with that, those thoughts makes me wonder like how do you then track the traction of your meme, and how are you able to sort of see like where it's going and stuff, and how to keep an eye on it in case something like that happens?
Yeah, so I think that part of like the usefulness of hashtags is that hashtags do allow you to track, right? It's kind of like this filing system in which you put into the search whatever your hashtag is, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or some other form of social media, and you can really be watching as other people use the hashtag and engage in that conversation, and follow it in that type of way, especially when you have a very specific hashtag. It makes that a lot easier. When you're using a national hashtag, it's a lot harder to track and follow because so many people are involved in the conversation. But with very specific original hashtags, just being able to put that in searches and follow who's using it and what the conversation looks like. But I know I want to give an example of Jamal, who is Black, gender nonconforming, amazing organizer, who is working on a documentary called No Fats, No Femmes. And the project, the documentary, the movement behind it is really pushing back in Black, queer, and mainly like Black gay men communities, in which there's this hierarchy around like what's ideal and attractive, like these desirability politics around we don't want fat, like fat men or fat folks are unattractive, right? That femininity is not attractive, right? It's not as valuable as masculinity. And so creating No Fats, No Femmes, that was also like, they launched it as a hashtag. And then another group took it and made t-shirts that said No Fats, No Femmes tank tops, in which the tank top was being worn by a white cis gay man who was like shaking his finger while wearing it, like using it the wrong way, right? Saying, yeah, no fats, no femmes, right? And so that was a moment in which this very strong political statement got co-opted. And then not only did it get co-opted, but they began making t-shirts and profit. And what Jamal had to do in that situation was really organize folks to put enough pushbacks. Yes, there it is. Thanks for pulling that up. So what Jamal did was organize folks to really push back against the folks who created these tank tops and were selling them. And as a result of that organizing, they actually came back and tried to like cover their tracks and say we were using it in a satirical way, that this was satire, that we knew the original meaning, that you guys just weren't in on the joke, right? But then they had to immediately like backtrack and then turned over profits to Jamal for the No Fats, No Femmes documentary and campaign. So that's just one way in which a hashtag, a message was co-opted, and not only co-opted, but then capitalized upon. And then because Jamal had already been organizing around it, was able to organize people to push back towards those folks. And then it resulted in a win because Jamal was then able to change that conversation, and they gave financial reparations, right? The profits were turned over to Jamal.
Nice. Cool, thanks for sharing that.
Oh no, we're almost out of time. How does that happen?
Yeah. Is there anything that you all wanted us to think about before we bounce? Looks like we have about 5 more minutes left.
See, so I guess one of my questions would just be like, so for the folks who are on the call, like, what are ways you can start seeing or start thinking about how you can use memes in effective strategies for the work and campaigns you're taking on? Like, how do you think how it might help you be able to build power, show power, engage with members, any of that?
Sorry, can you say the question again?
Yeah, like I'm just wondering, like, so like kind of coming off of this discussion and the memes that we've been starting to make, like what are effective, what are ways you can think about using memes in your work for like effective strategy towards building power, towards engaging with your members and your base? What are ways you can what are ways you're thinking about doing that in your work moving forward?
So in the chat, Marielle says, I think a lot of code development is necessary. Like, memes aren't something you can just learn to do, then go on your own and do, unlike other common tools. So most advocacy memes aren't very natural. But yeah, so I think that's, let's see, like maybe some extra time in group creation could be useful.
Thank you.
I think too, just as silly, this is the first time I kind of interacted with memes, which is ridiculous, was like a few years ago when actually Bex was making them, getting geared up to get folks to come to the Allied Media Conference, which is actually coming up in June 16th. So maybe it wasn't like, I think it was more like less about a campaign, but like more about like getting excited and mobilizing people to see each other in a place, and they were more fun, but I thought that was a really awesome use of generating excitement for a gathering.
Cool. I got a text from one of our leaders at SNAPCO, BT, who texted me and asked me if this workshop in Skillshare will be archived. And yes, it will be archived. It will be on the transformativemedia.cc site. So we archived there, and it'll be there forever, theoretically.
This is so great. Thank you so much for this Skillshare.
Yeah, thank you all for being a part of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, and we will be back again next month with another one on social media, continuing on with the online organizing theme.
Also, one last thing. If you can see the chat box, I've also shared with the link to a video of the action and each point that we talked about earlier. If you want to see more of the action and see SNAPCO and all of our power. So yeah, just sharing that. And thank you again for Transformative Media Organizing Project for helping us coordinate and do this and share what we can share with everyone.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome watching the meme get made.
Is there
All right.
somewhere we can get the memes?
I think they went on the Facebook and on the page.
Okay, awesome.
And also on Twitter, yeah. And they're in the archive also, this recording.